Hi, welcome to the Communitarian Project podcasts. This will explore my own communitarian take on things. The subject matter of each podcast may vary greatly, however, the overriding exercise is to cultivate and experiment with the ideas of communitarianism. Thanks for listening, and hope you enjoy. The unhappy communitarian. A common problem I encounter when discussing my ideas is finding a common ground in which to debate. Usually it is as if I'm on a completely different mountaintop to the other and we are unable to bridge the gap. Therefore, as an exercise, I'm going to try and bridge the gap by explaining how my ideas make me feel. I identify as a communitarian and I feel unhappy. Question: where are the communities in our society? My first source of misery is that they don't exist and haven't for some time. You might respond, of course there are communities. There are villages, cul-de-sacs, online communities everywhere. However, it is a common error to use the word community as analogous to the word group. The two are not the same, and it accumulates to be the most misused word in the English language. Instead, a community is made up of members who share a sphere of moral rights and obligations. For the communitarian, the community is a necessary bastion of the pursuit of virtues. It seems to me that although there is a desire to use the word community, it is in name only. A common question which plagues my mind is, why is it that those who live in our current society don't understand or seek to establish a community in the true sense of the word? The answer to me is clear: individualism. Individualism is the most dominant philosophy of our time. It is the success of this pernicious idea which is the source of my unhappiness. Individualism is so dominant that many do not even know or care to know the assumptions on which it's based. At its heart is an amoral claim. Individuals should solely pursue their self-interest. There cannot be any moral improvement or community with such a mantra. It is clear to me that such an idea has infiltrated and infected every corner of society. Let's consider but one: behaviour. It is true that man is primarily motivated by pleasure and the avoidance of pain. However, individualism has us believe that the only form of pleasure which is worth our attention is that which correlates with self-interest. This is then represented in a shallow, specific set of behaviours. A person is either consumed with the distinction of obtaining material wealth or pursuing judgments according to their own personal taste. Conversations are limited to what a person wants and what experiences they want to have. All self-absorbed conversations and actions are distasteful in comparison to the pursuit of virtue. An inevitable reaction: I should get off my high horse and realise that people can't and won't devote their lives like a monk to some higher ideal. Such a reaction is partially justified, but it best highlights a conundrum at the heart of ethics. Does a civic morality have to enslave the person to live a life of servitude? It is striking to me that such an obvious question is never given much attention, be it in society or academia. One person to blame for such a rigid, fixed concept of morality is Jesus, since he sincerely believed that everyone should give up their material wealth and desires to help others who are in need. Such a moral standard is commendable, but it is not what I have in mind. Of course, the communitarian believes passionately in fulfilling their moral obligation to others. For me, the source of so much unhappiness is that there is no community to actualize my moral duties. If the community did exist, it would allow man to get up, have breakfast in the morning, be moral during the day, and relax in the evening. The community would not be an exercise of extreme servitude, but instead it would allow for the mitigation of moral duties within the realities of the day. Within such a community, the reality of conversations and actions to do with material acquisition or taste would be interesting or charming. Such behaviours are only distasteful when man has no interest in cultivating virtue. Overall, this is what I believe could be possible, and it brings me great shame and unhappiness that we don't live in such a society. An inevitable reaction: such a community doesn't and can't exist. As you explain, people are primarily motivated by pleasure, which is an individual phenomena, hence why the pursuit of individual self-interest is all we can and hope to do. Yet, this is another source of misery for me. The assumption is that because society exists in such a way, that it must be the way that best suits our nature as human beings. This is a bleak depiction of what human beings are and what we are capable of. Detrimental to my happiness, I am unable to support such an assumption, and therefore unable to exercise such a trivial get-out clause for having no responsibility for the society around me. I consider such a view as despicable and cowardly. Instead, communitarianism has a positive view of what human beings are capable of, positive as understood as the ability to change the world around us, for better or worse. Question: does the society today that we live in encourage the best of what human beings are capable of? The crux of my argument is that, yes, man is motivated by pleasure, but such a motivation is not solely related to self-interest. It is a scientific fact that man is a collaborative species. The sentiments we feel when others are in pain have been well documented. Our ability to empathize is an inherent part of us, which has evolved with us. Put simply, we suffer when we see others suffering. We gain pleasure when we see others in pleasure. When pursuing a life full of pleasure, we have to take into consideration the pleasure of others. We are not solely isolated, self-interested entities. Instead, we have sentiments which inform our behaviour. It is the main ingredients needed for crafting virtue, which is stunted in our current society. It is clear to me that only when we live within as a community that those moral sentiments can be fully realised and acted upon. I hope this explains why I'm a communitarian and an unhappy one. Thanks for listening. If this has been useful to you, please like and subscribe. If you feel like supporting the channel financially, you can make a small donation via the link below at buymeacoffee.com. Feel free to leave comments below with any questions you have, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible.